Hello and welcome back to Well Woman. This episode of the podcast has been manifesting itself for some time, for many years, because Carmen has been such a powerful influence in my journey. She helped me to write my first book. She's been a mentor, a life guide. She's taught me many things about myself, and also she helped me create and discover my spirit team. So when I thought about who I'd like to interview from very early on with this podcast, she was right up there on the list. And so I am thrilled, beyond thrilled actually, to now be able to share this beautiful woman with you all. And, things in the universe have somehow worked out and fallen into place, and she is available today for me to interview. So let me tell you a little bit about Carmen. She's a medicine woman. She is from Peru. She's a shamanic practitioner and a mentor. She's based in New South Wales, where she has built a very strong following of what I would describe as really good, deep, loving humans. And I know this because I've sat in her circles many times. I've soaked up the love and the wisdom. Carmen spent her childhood in Peru, where the value the healing power of nature was truly valued, and the sacredness of plants, ceremony with plants, the value of deepening in connection to the plant world and to that spiritual world within ourselves was really valued. And in her 20s, she found herself moving for a number of reasons over 13,000 kilometers away to the northern beaches of Sydney. She was married, she had a young, beautiful daughter, and her journey to becoming a shamanic teacher really started to evolve. At one stage, a single mum. She was edging on 30. She was in a strange new land, and she had no support system here, and a career that just wasn't fulfilling her. So this is a woman who's been through it, and she's found a way to navigate through those challenges. She found change. She took steps towards a more meaningful, impassioned life, and she discovered just how powerful shamanic practices can be in delivering this deep healing to us as we face all of those sorts of challenges, as we face change and fear and loss and feeling alone. And ultimately, it was those shamanic practices that completely turned her life around. Carmen offers deep transformative retreats, shamanic training courses. She runs groups as well, circles, drumming circles, workshops, mentorship groups. She has a new program out called Antidote. I'm going to let her tell you about that too. She has sweat lodges, movement workshops, and more. So in this interview, there's lots for you to discover about all the ways that Carmen can support you. Or support you and your community, and she'll give you a little bit of a wrap up about the sorts of things that she's got on offer. So I wanted to have a look at things or talk about topics like our innate connection to ourselves, our spirituality, and how this can support us as we navigate through midlife, when things are changing, when we are transitioning, and our role within the family, friendship, society, and work might also be changing. So sit tight, enjoy this episode, and here is Carmen Morales. Hello and welcome to Well Woman. It's Sue Lin, your hormone health coach, and thank you for tuning in. If you're looking for the latest advice on women's health, food, mood, tips, hacks, and all the hormone things, you've come to the right place. I hope you love this episode. Let's get to the show. Welcome, Carmen. I'm so delighted that you're joining me today on Well Woman. So thank you so much for being here. And I have no doubt that my listeners are going to love you. So how about we start off by maybe just offering you a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are, how you came to be here.
Hi, Sulina, and thank you also for having me here. Like, it's been a little bit of a journey in the making. It felt like a pregnancy. for this moment to align and be here. I'm Carmen. I think Asulin has mentioned I'm from Peru, and I started my journey into these ways just for my own healing. I was really struggling with fitting in the modern world, and that brought me to Blanca, my first mentor, who took me under her wing, showing me a different way and reminding me of all of these things that are our birthright that we grow up without knowing about ourselves, about the power that lies in the connection with the forces of life, with nature, with the elements, with our own spirit, beyond the endocrination that that the system gives us, and the molds that the system gives us, and how the system tells us, like who we have to be successful, or how to look at ourselves. And she really helped me start even realizing that I had these filters that had been imposed onto me on how to look at myself, or how the rules that I had been given that were external to me on how I needed to live my life, and that is what was causing so much pain in my life and creating and manifesting as, different illnesses and disorders in my life, because I was carrying, without knowing, all these heavy limitations, like straitjackets, that were constricting my spirit, constricting my vitality, constricting my creativity, and so many things, my connection to life itself. And so, yes, just that journey of unraveling all these bits and just rediscovering my freedom, rediscovering who I was, only through that then I came to realize that all of this magic that I had been offered was by her, was not just for me, but to share it, to help others with the same thing. And so that's how it all started to pour out of me, right? Like first I just drank from it and I absorbed it and I let it transform my life. And then just out of the pure love of what it had done for me, I really wanted to share it with others. I felt that deep call of living the life that I was living, the job, all the things. I think my old marriage then had already fallen apart. And I think part of all that also created the space for these realizations to come. And then the inspiration of then finding how to teach something that I felt was so foreign in a way, being many, 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 many miles away from home in this beautiful land that had called me, but that I didn't know how people would receive it. And I didn't know, it was like, well, I know I want to do this, but I have no idea, because we also work with many medicine plants in Peru that then, Blanca did and that I couldn't use here. And so, but it was, from the get-go, just such a magical journey. I remember the first space I went into to rent a space to start sharing my work. And I walked in and there was a Buddha holding, at the reception, there was a Buddha holding a book that was open with pictures. And the first picture that I saw was a picture of Machu Picchu with a group of people. And so I was like, oh, so maybe they will like it, maybe, yes, I'm just in the right place and I'm just gonna get out of the way and jump in. So yes, it's been an adventure. Sorry for the long answers. I'm just such a storyteller.
That's really beautiful. And what kind of stood out at the recent workshop that you held, the antidote workshop? You were talking about Blanca, and I thought there is an example of that connection to our elders. And when we have that role model in our lives in a way to hold our hand and guide us through, it's a way to channel the wisdom of all the women that came before us. And I have to say that in the West, at least in my experience, women, we have our babies a little bit later. We have jobs, occupations. We move to different cities or different countries. We don't have the village necessarily anymore. So there are a lot of us out there, and I'm sure that a lot of our listeners today will resonate with this, where we're just feeling a little bit lost. And we are trying to find ways of living and hopefully thriving in this world. But it can be very challenging to actually find our fit. And that connection, I mean, that's very special. I thought as you were telling the story about how you met Blanca and the change that she made in your life, I found it very positive, and it also gave me hope. I've had women in my life, some of my, well, of course, my own mother, but some really dear friends who've taken that role on for me. So I'm very grateful to our elder women. It was a great story. A lot of my listeners are very much into plant medicine. They might be thinking about it as herbs and nutrients.
Oh,
I don't think we're
sorry.
talking about the same thing.
No. Blanca is an ayahuasquera, so she works with ayahuasca and yes, other, within my lineage. Then there's the huachuma, the San Pedro cactus, which, yes, they're beautiful, beautiful master plants that unfortunately in Australia are are banned. But oh my God, yes, plants in general, they're a family, and they're here to walk alongside us humans, and they're here to hold us in health, and they're here to help us stay strong, because being a human in this world, in these modern times, is not an easy thing, so nature is always providing with everything that we need so that we can thrive. I think, in what you were saying about the tribe, and that's exactly what happened to me as well when I moved here. I had to leave my tribe behind to come to the other side of the world, because that was the calling. And spirit was non-negotiable, like so many times I tried to go back, and actually I would go back many times, and I would get there and ask the land, can I come back yet? And it would say, no. Okay. And that was for a little bit until I really made peace with it, and I understood that this is where I had to be, that this is where spirit wanted me, and I just needed to just land in this place. But I felt very, very lonely. And if you think about it, for my children even, like I uprooted that system, these plants that travel around to the other side of the world. And yes, that lack of community, that lack of tribe. And that is what inspired me also to do the work that I do. I came from a place where I knew how vital that connection is. I had a very embodied experience in my life of how belonging to a big family, like what difference it makes in our nervous systems, even to be woven into a circle in a strong way. And so coming here, not having that, I made it a mission. I need to weave community for my own health, for the hope to, in a short lifespan, be able to repopulate in a way that for my children, that they would have something, that the void wouldn't be as huge as it would be if I didn't recreate that. And then also because I could see how separate the women and the people that I was working with were, and they were all craving the same thing. That's why I devoted myself to really start weaving community, weaving circle, bringing circles together, and really making it be about remembering. Because even if we haven't had that experience, it is in ourselves, it is in our body, it is in our ancestral knowing within ourselves to know what that feeling of safe in being together is. And it's beautiful to see how, through the years, like our community has been together, well, some of the oldest ones, I don't know, for maybe 15 years, 12 years, and seeing how much faster people are integrating into that feeling of being family. That is what inspires me to keep weaving even more this thread of community that is vital for all of us. So yes, one definitely not. I was talking about these specific plants, which are not the ones that Sulin works with, but yes, that plants like beings, the beautiful beings that they are also here holding us in that vision of health.
Yeah. And you call them the grandmother plants.
There's grandmothers and grandfather. There's, both, for example, the cactus is a grandfather. Ayahuasca is a grandmother, but also the flowers are grandmothers, and there's grandfather trees and bushes, and yes, they are family.
Yeah,
I think that's a beautiful thing to remember,
Yes, honestly, we talked about this when you were mentoring me years ago, and I was really conflicted between the scientific approach to herbal medicine and my own spiritual journey with herbal medicine. And you helped me a lot to connect with those plant spirits. And it allowed me to see much more deeply because, to be honest, with the scientific at that level, I felt like it never penetrated deeper than the chemistry because I wanted to kind of get in the weeds and get in deep. It's beautiful to hear you talk about plants this way, beautiful. And you mentioned you're going to be doing some functional medicine study as well.
Oh, yes. I've been doing also some neuroscience studies lately. I like the marriage of both, and I think that we live in such a fortunate time where medicine is catching up. Medicine outside of the mainstream system is catching up with all of these things that we have known, that have been in the ancestral maps, of course, without scientific terms or explanations like this. For me, this is where I want to come and connect them together and see, okay, all of these, neuroscience processes and terms, yes, this is, see, when you shamanic journey, look at how there's so many studies of how our brain redevelops and connections are re-established in our brains when we open up to all these other parts of our brain, which are obviously part of our make, but because in the Western world and in the modern life, that we live, we are taught that value is on how much we know, and they teach us to memorize things and repeat them and keep the knowledge here. But the embodiment part is left behind, the listening to ourselves, all the sentient knowing and the connection with all the invisible powers that we have, that we all have. We're not taught how to continue being connected with all of that, because sometimes the shamanic work can be just seen as something like woo-woo or whatever, but I really think that in these crazy times that we're living, we need to reclaim our right to return in whatever capacity resonates with us to models of health. That's where, they're looking at medicine in hand with shamanic ways or ancestral practices of simplicity that can demonstrate and support all of these other. I think we live in a time, like I said, at the Antidote workshop, where we really have to dare to just become the revolution and to become the link that's missing. Where is our passion? And to find where is our passion and go, okay, well, how can I be a new revolutionary seed that can create a different solution. It just makes me excited to think that it can help somebody. Just let these good seeds fly of new, I don't know, evolution. My son is really into dinosaurs, and we watch lots of documentaries about the evolutions of the species through time. And it's always these times of challenge that have led to evolution, of us changing something, morphing something, developing something that has then sustained life for the next chapter. Yeah, I like that possibility of becoming this link in that evolution, that we can be part of that. One really, really, really simple thing. One little thing that just you can take home, everybody can take home after listening to this, then yeah, we've done a great thing, I feel, is in remembering that we're living in a very overcomplicated time where we are exposed to so very much, not only in the roles that we play and that the external pressure that is put onto everybody for higher performance, and in every way or in so many areas of our life. We have to be good mothers, good wives, good daughters, good sisters, good moms at school, good moms at whatever sport our child plays and whatever. Because we live in cities that are so condensed with humans, we're being exposed to more people than we would normally do, that our systems are designed to cope with, and the constant email and the constant messages, and they keep us in this space of hypervigilance. This is not natural. This is what is breaking us, because our bodies are not designed for this. And so we need to know that all of this is man-made, and it is driven by patriarchal models that just focus on material stuff. And I don't have anything about material stuff. We all need it. I think we should all, look for what is enough for our families and live well, but not at the cost of our health. And so we need to remember, just for a moment, to think, okay, what are the pressures, or rather to become aware that the pressures are coming from all the ways, because this is the world that we're living in. And so how can I create a little buffer between myself and the pressures of life, so that I can breathe, so that every day I have space for my nervous system to remember to just be and regulate again, and just come back to that place where I can remember that I'm not all those things, that I'm not all those roles, that I don't need to respond to all of these, all of these requests from all these people, to come back to ourselves, because we live in a place where we're also bombarded by being told of what we need, who we are, who we're not, who we're. It's like, okay, well, just take a second. It is up to us really to create those boundaries where we can start to reclaim our wellness. We can start to reclaim our right to be healthy in a way that makes sense to us. And so creating healthy boundaries. I spoke about this also on Antidote, like our sleep. How are we caring for our sleep? I am all about micro actions, and it's just the little things that move the needle. Just what is one little thing that I can do? So if I'm going to bed and scrolling until whatever time, can I just set an alarm on my phone, and then at the time that the alarm goes off, put the phone away? We want to reclaim the right for us to be at peace, to be well, and not just in menopause, but in all of the times. I know that this podcast is more directed towards menopause, and I would say that even more so at menopause. If we haven't done it so far, then right now is the moment, because it's your life. Because it's your life, and because we all deserve to be happy. If we are not spending time pondering about these things, then how can we generate a change? And I know when we get to these perimenopause times, like there's no more time for hiding, because things are going to go down. It's like our hormones are going to change, our mind is going to change, our mood is going to change, the way we navigate the world is going to change. And so it is really a way of nature, to call and let us know that we're in a time of transition, and you need to stop and listen. Yes, because our body is going to come and tell us all the stories that we haven't listened to before. So the way in which the symptoms are going to show up in our body is going to be a reflection of all the voices, all our internal voices that we have ignored. Yeah, there will be no more ignoring. It's just going to come and just be in our face. And so, of course, the response of the medical system is going to be, oh, just take this, take that, push through, at work. Yeah, just
or perhaps this is normal. This is normal. Go deal with it.
We all go through this. What are you talking about? Let's just, and it can be so isolating and so debilitating, because yes, it is not normal to have to just push through, even when we're bleeding, even when we have had our cycles. Our menstrual time shouldn't be a time of pushing through and it's normal and you just keep, just at it. When you're a map of health would be that we can take at least one day to stop. We're losing so much blood, where our body is in a process. I pray that for the future generations we can reclaim this understanding that they have the right to call and have a personal day. Take that day to rest, to be healthy, to be well, to listen and tend to their bodies, because that is the winter of our seasons. And if we tend well to that, even, one day, 4 hours, whatever we can do during that time, then our spring is going to be better, because our soil is going to be richer, it's going to be more nourished. And so that is similar, becomes a similar thing when we get to menopause and all these symptoms come to just call for our attention. We really need to listen. And so I think more than ever, it's a time where it becomes non-negotiable. And I think just a drop of estrogen just naturally just get women not to care about a lot of things that they cared before, and be, sharper in their communication and expression and things like that. I really think that if we can understand menopause from the biological model, and usually we would be at a point in our life where, if we were following the original ways of nature, we would have had our children when we were in our late 20s or mid 20s or early 20s. Our children will be adults by the time we hit menopause. And so this is what our body is doing, is going and saying, Mama, you've done it. Whether we've had children or not, but anyways, if we haven't had children, our body's saying okay, it's okay. Well, we're closing that window. We didn't do it before, so it's time to close shop. We're not going to do this business anymore. Our body is slowing down. It's closing all of that fertile time of giving birth to other life and the external nurturing that comes with that. And it's bringing the attention back to try to bring us into inner nurturing. Yeah, because now it's the time of returning to that place of, okay, I've nurtured life outside. So now how do I look inside to finish, or to nurture all of the life that is in me as I come to that maturity place of all my gifts, all my talents, the things that bring me joy, where I can really come to the fruition or the flowering of myself. So it's the time of the queen, the inner queen. It's very, very different to the model, that it's spoken out there. Is like, no, you're going down. We're not. Yes, no. You're not gonna take my queendom, my queendom time. Are you kidding me? No way. But for us to be able to really live that time, we need to look at the reality of life. One, we keep having children until much later on. So what happens very, very often is that we start perimenopause, but we still have young children. We may still have many years ahead of nurturing, mothering, holding. And I think that there is no right or wrong way. But what we do need to do is to be really aware of what process is my body, my body going on because of my natural cycles, and what other things I'm still holding. Like my son was a very, very conscious decision to bring him in. It's honoring that role that I chose, and at the same time honoring my own process as a woman and what is going to sustain my health, my well-being, my time of flourishing, whilst he also continues to grow and flourish in his own way. We need to create that space that I was speaking about, that that boundary, that breathing space where I can be with me, where I can listen to myself, to what is emerging in me, what is it that I really want, and how do I navigate the changes that my body is going through, like tending to a baby, like how can we look at our body like a baby that, okay, you're struggling with this, okay, I'm going to hold you, and I want to listen to you. I want to be with you. I want to understand what's happening here. Yes, rather than just handing all of these symptoms to somebody else that is just going to try to numb them or quiet them or give a band-aid thing that then is just not going to allow us to receive the gift that this time has for us.
And I feel like that's giving ourselves permission to move out of the external woman, move into the internal woman. We want to model these ways of being to the younger generations so that the next group and cohort of women going through perimenopause have some extra enrichment from the things that we are doing, or the ways we're being, the ways that we're showing up for ourselves, and maybe just releasing some of the judgment.
Please, right? Like, you would have heard me say this a billion times. Like, we need to drop that guilt, and we need to become friends with being healthily selfish, because otherwise we're just forever the people pleaser. And what are the cycles, the roles that we keep perpetuating there, not just for ourselves, but as you're saying, for our children and for everybody else, that, we're just, whatever we're not breaking, we are agreeing to. Yes, and so I don't want to keep perpetuating these ways of life that, like, really created a lot of pain in my life. I want to break free. I want to reclaim this for me. And I want to take micro actions. This is where the micro actions for me have, like I find this, and in my practice, I find that it's the bridge between, that works for so many people, because it's just that one tiny thing, and you just think that you're doing the tiny thing, but one tiny thing starts really unraveling, and it's like a snowball effect that then starts compounding and then generating bigger changes. I think it's really, really important in breaking all of these communal, societal beliefs, and feelings that I see in 99.9% of the people that I work with. This guilt about resting, this guilt about taking time for themselves or putting their needs first, especially for moms. Like, oh goodness, mothers are the most overstretched, overtired that I have seen in the 15 years or 20 years that I've been working here. The mothers have just continued to overstretch. It is so important. It is so important because the moms are the center of the home. The health of the mom almost defines the health of the home. If a mom is healthy, well nourished, with her own needs met, everybody else is gonna be good. In the Andean tradition, as women, we are the flowers of Pachamama. We're the flowers of Mother Earth. So what is needed for a bush to flower? It needs to be well watered, well nourished. It needs a lot of different nutrients so that the plant can even produce flowers. Otherwise, we're just a bush, right? We don't get to fulfill our purpose. We don't get to bloom. When we say yes to many things, and the thing for my husband, and the thing for my son, and the thing for my other child, and the thing for my other kid, and to my friend, and because we don't want to disappoint anybody, that is how we are choosing to spend our life force. And so then when it comes down to the important stuff, to sustaining my health, to having the available energy to generate new ways of being in me, to show up in a different way, to do the thing that I know I need to be doing for myself, but I keep not finding the time for, or not, just sabotaging. No, that's okay. Then we are not going to have the energy there to do those things that are really going to generate important shifts. Yes. And so we need to become more discerning, and as I'm saying, and as we're speaking, even more so in this time of menopause, it almost becomes non-negotiable to really start bringing our energy back in, so we can hold ourselves like at the center of our altar, almost, at the center of life, and see how can I nourish myself? What are all the ways in which my energy is going out that don't need to be there? Just take little steps that bit by bit just allow more energy to be here nourishing me. When we're scattered, and when we are just changing from one thing to the other, and running from this thing, the other thing, the whole day, it's impossible to hold that center for our nervous system, even for our brain, which would have struggled in a younger age anyways with so much. But at this point, it just becomes non-negotiable to really start cultivating some way of slowing down, creating more slowness in our day, because that's what our bodies are trying to do. Is our bodies are slowing down, the systems within our bodies are slowing down, so that we can slow down and enjoy life more, be more present to all the information that starts flooding up from our heart, the guidance from ourselves of what is life really about for us. A lot of people, like most people, I ask when we first start working together, what do you want? What are the things that you love? What is your deepest desire? A lot of people don't even know or remember because maybe it's buried and there's so many layers of tiredness or overcommitment or those imposed limitations and definitions of who we are. Because maybe our zone of genius is out here, not within the limitations and definitions that we've been given, like that is what happened to me. Is my zone of genius was so far out of this definition that I was getting quite ill living in here. And so it is so important, we owe it to our own life to open, I think, the gift. I feel like a child opening a gift in Christmas. And what is my gift? Like, what is it that I'm here to do? What really makes me happy? And that all those things can come and be back in our life. I think this is the gift of menopause. This is the gift that perimenopause is trying to give us.
Would there be any certain practices you could suggest that women could do to help that reconnection with nature as well as our internal nature?
If we can only do one thing, I guess, if it's one micro action that we can start with, is having time of silence, ideally in nature. I'm going to give you the ideal thing. So what you want to work towards, it doesn't mean this is where you start, but ideally we want to have at least half an hour twice a day. Really is it's the gold spot. But if it's not possible, half an hour a day, and ideally in nature. As I said, if it can't be in nature, then it doesn't matter. But maybe try to find, even if it's once a day or once a week, that you can sit in nature for that silence time, then amazing. Silence is the most important thing, because what happens is when we create that space of stillness and silence, what's going to happen in our mind is that it's going to get so loud in our head. So don't imagine that you're going to sit down and all of a sudden you're going to Zen master, no thoughts. It's probably going to be the opposite. We're going to sit down and our thoughts and the voices in our head are going to get so loud, and the to-do lists and all these things are going to come up like a bottle of soda that has been shaken and open. And great, because this is exactly what we're doing. We're allowing all that inner pressure to just come out, and burst out and just flush, so that we don't have to carry it inside. So it's releasing the tension of our mind. What will happen in time, though, is we won't have that tension anymore. And so we will start to experience sitting down and finding moments of stillness. And we start hearing the voice of our intuition, whispering messages that we need to hear. This voice of intuition we can not only hear it or feel it within that time, but it starts to show up more and more throughout our life, our days. And the reason why doing it in nature is a pairing for that is because it helps us remember that we are also part of nature, that we belong, that we're constantly held. I think as human beings, it's important that we can reclaim that connection with nature so that we can actually remember how held we are in every moment of our life if we just choose to lean onto that support and allow ourselves to be carried and held by that support. So that's why in nature, and that is a practice actually that's called hamutai, which is a traditional Peruvian practice, but it is similar to the diri or the practices that they have here of sitting in nature and feeling onto the land and getting to know the land. And when you're doing this silence in nature, then you also not only start to feel and hear your inner guidance, but you start to feel and hear the inner guidance of nature, of a bird may bring you a message, or the ocean in this case for me was clearing away so much and just accompanying. But life becomes an adventure again when we can reconnect with this sense of belonging.
So makes me think also of how we go to school when we're young and we're in these concrete buildings, and this great disconnection from nature begins, and we learn about planet Earth almost as if it's a separate entity to ourselves, and yet we are all Earth. And that's perhaps meant that we've forgotten that we have this great ally, and then in return we look after it.
And I think also not take responsibility for the actions of all the other humans, like what's happening in the earth. Of course, to stand for her, and for me is how am I caring for her in a better way, that we can just bring it back into our own personal relationship with her. I call her because for us in Peru, she's our mother, Mother Earth. And it's how are we living in relationship with her as good children. Yeah, that is a gift in itself, I think, to be able to remember that we're children of the earth and that she wants to see us all thrive. And that's why we have all the resources here that we need for that to happen. We just need to take a conscious action of reclaiming that space for ourselves, so that our body can show us, our body can call us back home into that memory and that place of deeper alignment and deeper freedom to live our life.
It's been so wonderful speaking with you, Carmen, and I'd love for you to just tell us, where can we find your offerings? Have you got anything planned in the future?
Yes, it's been amazing being here. I think the best places would be perhaps my website, which is carmenmorales.com.au. Well, the Instagram, you will share Carmen Morales Shamanism.
Absolutely. I'll put all the links below.
On my website, there's a free audio. I recommend it, and I've been using it for a long time with a lot of my students and clients. If anybody wants just to download that and to listen to that at the beginning of the day, I think it's so good. Or whenever things get challenging, it helps us come back into a place of remembering, moves us away from anxiety, from the doing or the overwhelm, and brings us back. It's about half an hour, which I think it's a beautiful gift to gift ourselves. Then we are having a shamanic journey training in the next couple of months. I think it's in May. I will give you the details when I have them. And then there is the Activate Your Abundance program, which is not necessarily just, people sometimes think it's about like money abundance. And of course, like it's abundance of all the things. I really think that microaction is the way to go, especially in a place in the system where we are so overwhelmed and overstretched. That program, I see it working so beautifully in holding people's hand for a full moon cycle, for a full 30 days of just walking together every day, like a 15-minute invitation to do something, to do a practice. So it removes the how do I do this? How do I generate change? Or where do I start? And it really just comes in softly with, like a little bit of a sprinkle of magic every day. And I see over again that people do it. And then at the end of the month, it's like, oh, wow, okay, yes, I can see, like I can see, where things have started to move. And the beauty with that program is that then you can do it over again, for another 30 days if you want to. It works with whatever intention, people may have to generate change in one area of their life, or it can be at this time of perimenopause or menopause. These are my challenges, and this is what I would like to create for myself, to generate in myself, so that I can be better, so that I can feel more connected to that possibility of blooming in a way that makes sense to me. So that is a beautiful place, a soft place, for nourishment. There's a beautiful retreat coming for the winter solstice at Casa Colibri, which is my retreat center up near Newcastle. And there's always things popping up. So the best way to stay connected, I think, it's either like by joining the mailing list, or checking my website, or staying connected through social media, which I do use it mindfully as a tool. And that is where I will put out invitations if anything is happening.
Oh, that sounds so wonderful. And if I can vouch for your workshops and your online course as well, I will, because I've done, I think, most of them. They're just amazing. And I love the ability to reflect, particularly and activate your abundance. It's very layered, and it's got lots of different practices. So you get a toolbox, and it's amazing support for women of all ages, and exactly what we need when we go into that reflective space that is so nourishing in midlife. That's wonderful. And then, of course, there's the mentoring, isn't there? So if people can work with you one-on-one.
Yes. There's also the possibility of working one-on-one for mentoring. And then I think later this year we'll open the group mentoring as well. It's another beautiful way of connecting. But for one-on-one mentoring, the best way is to send an email to us, because we don't have many spaces for that. An email is the best way, so then we can coordinate as soon as there's an opening to embark on that beautiful journey.
I'll put all the information below. So I'll put links to your mailing list, because I think that's where I would start. And then you get to know everything that's on offer. And hopefully maybe some drumming circles as well. Can I just plant that seed in there?
Yes. I feel it. I feel it strong. I feel it strong, especially after our last gathering a couple of weeks ago, and the community just really, really wanting those ongoing, gatherings that keep nourishing our family. But yes, I will bring the drums back out.
Yay. I mean, honestly, you couldn't have fit any more people in that hall. We were like yoga mat to yoga mat.
I felt so sad. We had to close the bookings like on the Monday. And I was like, oh, but the purpose is that it reaches as many people. And then, yes, no. I was like, it's not gonna be possible. we just need to hold them more often, so that, people can rotate with the dates that work. And this is also why we're doing it online for the people that could not be there in person, and having that dual possibility. I have quite a few people actually that came to the Antidote workshop in person, who are joining in for the one that we're holding online, because they've digested now what they received that day, but they want to revisit, and then they get to keep the recordings and the processes that we did, but as a recording, so then they can do them themselves. And I think that's the beauty also, is we live with such a sense of urgency and rush. Really what life is calling for, is for us to slow down and simplify. And so, how can I then just continue to move with what I receive, but in a slower pace, and receive and just listen again and listen again, which really is the way in which we absorb, and when we can trust that in every moment we're going to receive what we need to receive, and then that the next layer will open. Of course, there's different richnesses in each thing, when we can gather in person, it's just so delicious. But then the support of the programs that are online, where you can just, it's like they're here home with you, walking with you, and I think with that, Activate Your Abundance, the month one with the micro actions, is that it just can continue walking. And if you can't do them every day, it doesn't matter. I'll do whatever I can do. This day I can do, and that day I can do, and that, just with complete compassion with ourselves, with that sense of generosity that we need to reclaim towards ourselves, and celebrating, it's okay, you've got it, you did it, even if it's our 5 minutes in silence, wherever. There's no urgency to get anywhere. And if you're perimenopausal, now than ever, it's just a time to really slow down and be generous with yourself, nurture yourself, and this is where I feel the work of the connection with plants, but especially roses. We use flowers a lot. So, as we come to create these loving boundaries for ourselves, the rose has all the feminine softness and beauty and deliciousness, and the thorns that just keep those healthy boundaries around her, and all the other, the lavender, the chamomile, all the bits that can come, the grandmothers that can come and just soothe our nervous systems. This is the time for all of those things.
You're definitely speaking my plant language there. I mean, they're all some of my favorite plants. Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Carmen, for being with us today, and I really appreciate your time. It's been just so wonderful. I've been waiting for this for a while, so as you know.
Thank you for your patience and for that trust, that the perfect moment will come and that it is here now. And yes, I think for doing what you do, for having moved beyond the traditional training and really listen to that calling within yourself, that knew that there was more to plants and how they wanted to help, not only you, but us as humans in this life, and for taking the time to really stopping and diving in that calling that was there for you to discover this, so you could use it in your life, but also serve your community in a much deeper way. So thank you for listening and for embracing your magic powers in this way as well.
Well, listeners, this has been my interview with Carmen Morales, and thank you for tuning in and listening. I will put all of the links below so that you can get in touch with Carmen and get to know her work, and maybe we'll see you at a workshop soon. And thank you, Carmen. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye.
Bye, lovely. That was such a beautiful conversation, and there were so many rich bits of inspiration in there. And as a woman moving through life, I'm really excited to see what new offerings are going to come through from Carmen's work. So please do go ahead and connect with her if you're interested in pursuing some shamanic work, workshops, personal reflective courses online, shamanic journeying, all the rest. You can find Carmen at carmenmorales.com.au. You can email her through the website. You can also book one-on-one sessions with her through the website. You can find Carmen on Instagram at carmen.morales.shamanism, and you can find her on Facebook at healing in community. So Carmen is a really wonderful person to connect with, a wonderful human. So I really encourage you to look at her work. And for Well Woman, I'm signing off for today, and I appreciate that you've given your time and spent your time here with us. If you did enjoy this video, we love a 5-star review. Please feel free to do that. It supports this work, and the sharing of this work as well helps me get promoted. And please subscribe to stay tuned for more episodes. Have a wonderful day and look after your beautiful self. Thank you for listening to the Well Woman podcast. The information, opinions, and advice in this podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice, and it's for general information and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast may not always be those of the host. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon in another episode of Well Woman.